Welcome to the King of Iron Fist Tournament 7.
Soy la reina del café.
Have you ever been like playing a video game before and you love playing it so much that every time you get off of it, only like a few hours later you want to get back on it? This is basically how I feel when that happens to me. what are you doing? No, get away from that mouse. Get away from the mouse. No, don't go to Steam. Don't click on it. No. Yeah, that's kind of the scenario that I'm in every time I get off of Tekken 8. Tekken 8 is a very interesting game, I would say, because overall, if I were to judge the game based off of everything that's happened so far and the game as a whole, I'd say it's a pretty great game. It has pretty nice content. The game in general is really fun. I'd say it's really fun at least. And overall, in terms of the DLC, it's not bad, but it could be more better handled. I started playing Tekken during Tekken 6, and then also I played a little more during Tekken 7. I played Tekken 7 more than Tekken 6. I mostly played Tekken 6 with a friend, a buddy, who got me into the game, and we've been playing the game with each other ever since. He mained Law in Tekken 6, and I mained Roger Jr. And I mained Heihachi and Aliza in Tekken 7, and he mained Law and Nina in Tekken 7, and he still mains Nina in Tekken 8, while I am a proud and true Azucena main. I also play Jin, and Kuma, and Heihachi. I play a lot of characters, okay? But overall, I liked all three of the Tekken games that I played. I didn't play the sixth one throughout its lifespan. I played a little bit of Tekken 7. I didn't follow it throughout the rest of it. I didn't follow it during its beginning, nor did I follow it throughout the rest of it. I didn't even know that they added Negan into the game. But overall, I just want to give my thoughts on Tekken 8 and what I want to see from them and what they do and all that stuff, if there's gonna be changes. But we're first gonna talk about the content for Tekken 8 is honestly pretty good, like not bad at all whatsoever. Number one, the first thing I want to point out is the story. The story is phenomenal. One of the best fighting game stories I have played. I think it's a really well made and crafted story. It's literally almost as good as the Injustice story. Well, actually, it's probably better than the Injustice story. I think Injustice had a really wonderful story. Tekken 8 had a really good story. Most because with Jin being the main focus, they were able to tell a very good story with him. Because he actually went through a character arc. Because I saw this once, or I saw someone say this once. It felt like they wanted to grab Jin and fix a lot of the stuff that people have problems with. Because now he feels like an actual character. Like, I didn't know a lot about what happened in Tekken 6. But what I do know is that Jin basically, like, was just starting war for no reason. Just so he could break out Azucel. And then he'll take him down because of all that. But then Tekken 8, he feels really bad for that. Because he caused a lot of war, a lot of chaos. And hell, in the story, he doesn't really value his own life. But throughout the story and throughout everything, he starts to learn to accept himself and all that other kinds of stuff. And it leads to one of the best climactic battles I've seen in a fucking story, dude. That shit was awesome. I loved it. Seeing Jin and Kazuya fight on this fallen asteroid with like tornadoes and lightning and tsunamis happening in the background, that's cool as hell. Man, the story was just great all around. I gave it like an 8 out of 10. It was fun. It was great. Another piece of content was the Tekken Fight Lounge stuff, or the arcade battles, or the arcade quest, or whatever. I thought the arcade quest was actually pretty cool. It was really well made, and it felt like it came from a genuine place of love for the Tekken games, aside from, the Tekken 8 story. It felt like they really wanted to teach you, like, Tekken 8's main priority is definitely making Tekken more available for newer players, because Tekken is a very non-beginner friendly kind of game. Let's say like a game like Smash Bros. Smash, you can pick up a controller and learn how to play the game fairly easily. Even for games like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, the only complicated part is learning, stuff about fighting games. Tekken's a little different because Tekken is very complicated from the get-go. Because you have to learn all this stuff like, I don't know, like Electric with God's Fist, fucking movement all around the stage, stage interactions and all that stuff. Tekken is a very complicated game. But it felt like they wanted to make it more approachable for newer players. And I'm technically a newer player. I didn't learn any kind of combos. I didn't get that high in terms of, hitting ranked in Tekken 7. I didn't get that high. Overall, I'd say I kind of knew how to play the game, but not really. But with Tekken 8, I feel like I actually want to get better at the game. And I'm learning the game fairly well. And to be honest, it's a fairly easy game for beginners. Because it teaches you about a lot of things like, the tornado system or, how power crushes work and all the other mechanics that are within Tekken 8 and all the other Tekken games. It teaches you how to play the game. And not only that, the story was like, it was goofy, it was a little silly, but it was fun silly. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really nice thing to do. And then they made a whole server fight lounge. That shit's cool. I always like it when developers do stuff like that. But that's just my take on it. I think all that stuff is really cool. And sometimes, hell, I've done a few videos on Tekken 8. And sometimes I'll just go into the fight lounge, get into an online ranked battle, and I'll just move around in the fight lounge. I think it's really cool. I did all the quests and I got all the treasure chests from the Super Ghost Battle Arcade quest spot. Yeah, that's what it is. I forgot about it for a little bit there. I think it's a really cool addition to the game and it adds way more content to the game. Like, I like to judge my games based off content, and if that's a piece of content and I really liked it, I think it was a good piece of content. But yeah, Tekken has its bread and butter kind of content where it's like, an arcade ladder and all that stuff. And they also have Tekken Ball. I haven't played a lot of Tekken Ball. I really should. I only played it once. It was fun. I enjoyed it. But I really should play it a little more. Overall, I'd say Tekken 8 has a fairly decent amount of content. I'll get into the fight pass and all that stuff later, but because that is a part of its own segment. But overall, the content of Tekken 8 is fairly good. So the DLC of Tekken 8 is very interesting because the DLC characters that they've released aren't bad characters. I'd say the only one that people really didn't care about was Lydia. Fucking Eddie was perfectly fine. I don't think people really had a problem with Eddie being DLC. I think it was a really smart choice making Eddie DLC. And I didn't have a problem with them bringing back Heihachi. If anything, I was really excited that they're bringing back Heihachi. Because I'm a big Heihachi fan. I love that character. He's so cool. He's so cool for no reason at all. I love him. In terms of how they brought him back, I think it's a little weak at points, but it's also really cool at points. So when Heihachi, when Kazuya threw him into the pit of lava, turns out he didn't really fall into the lava because someone saved him. And I'm just like, bro, do you know how much cooler it would have been if he fell into the lava yet just didn't burn to death or his body just didn't burn in the lava? That would have been hilarious, dude, because Tekken would pull some shit like that. But in terms of all that, I think that was one of the weaker points. But in terms of Heihachi losing his memories, I thought that was a very interesting point because that gave the writers, a chance to make Heihachi stronger in some ways. Yeah, we did learn a lot about the Mishima style and all that stuff, but overall, I think that part wasn't a weak part about it. And then the way Heihachi coming back to the depths was funny because my man's was a meteor was coming at him, and then whatever Heihachi, like mind lost Heihachi, was like grabbing it, and then he was ready to like keep it going, and then he just headbutted that thing, and then it brought his head memories back. Yeah, it's Tekken goofiness at its finest, and it's just like, yeah, it makes sense overall. But Heihachi coming back, that shit was awesome. It was kind of funny. I really liked it because you got to play as Heihachi, you got to whoop ass with him. It was fun overall. I don't know how to feel about that acquired power, because I honestly had a theory. My theory was that like when Kazuya punched him in the chest, some of the demon power went into him, and it was going to keep him alive from the lava, because Kazuya was thrown into a pit of fucking lava and didn't die. So it's just like, you'd think that with that giant punch that like blew the wind out of him and just stopped his heart, that would, go into him, and then that would give him the weirdest kinds of powers. But what they did do with it was fine. I like the idea that like only one person with the purest heart can only undergo and get this sort of power within the clan. And Heihachi, and the fact that like they had to have Heihachi be like lose his memories, and then this version of Heihachi is so pure-hearted, like he would fight his demons of like old Heihachi, and then having to get a boulder, or not even a boulder, fucking meteor, and then get his memory back from that. I thought was extraordinarily goofy, but Tekken's been goofier. That's all I'm gonna say about that. There's a literal bear named Kuma who was taught Mishima-style martial arts by Heihachi. Explain that to me, please. There's a literal boxing kangaroo within the story. Not even a boxing kangaroo, a boxing raptor. Please, explain that to me. Make that make sense. I don't think it was that bad. Could it have been done better and more in an interesting way? Yes. What they had was good and interesting, but it could have been done better. And do I hate it? No. Am I excited about what they do with this part of the story as they go on? Yes, I'm very interested in what's happening. I can't speak. Yes, I am very interested in what's going to happen next. But that still doesn't get rid of the fact that this could have been done better. But that also leads me into another point about the DLC. Why is there no character episodes for the DLC characters? Don't get me wrong, I understood that they saved their asses by giving us a whole ass big story thing with these 3 DLC characters. But here's my problem. It kind of makes the DLCs feel very lackluster when you're making us pay $8 for one character that doesn't even have content to them, because when you release a character, you expect more content to them aside from getting the character, right? I'm like, am I wrong about this? Even with Mortal Kombat with its arcade ladders, you still get an ending with it, and that's content though. People are at least paying money to get that content and play the game. Paying $8 for a character to only have that character to play and not anything else to play with them with is kind of weird in my opinion, because it just makes the character feel less. It makes buying the character feel less complete. I didn't think about this earlier in the beginning because I bought the whole season pass before the DLC characters even started coming out. So I didn't really think about it all that much. But then I started to realize, man, these characters don't really have that much content to them, do they? Even in Tekken 7, the third-party characters, they can get one. But in Tekken 7, the OG characters, quote-unquote OG characters, or the newer characters that they made, at least had, character episodes. So why don't the characters that you add in this game have that? you saved your ass when you announced, oh, we're expanding the story, we're adding a quote continuation of the story, when it's just like, okay, cool, awesome, thanks. Why didn't you just give them character episodes? Like, I'm not complaining that you're giving us content that we don't have to pay for, but it's also like, there could have been a different alternative to this. A completely different alternative in which that was character episodes, and I imagine everyone would have been perfectly fine with it. And it's so weird because the story is basically treated like character episodes, because like you start off playing Eddie, and it's basically like, you know, a character episode. You play 4 fights and then you move on to the next chapter with the next character. So why didn't you give them character episodes that are just like that? Like, it makes no sense. Because Eddie's story is completely different from what's happening within, you know, the story that's happening at the moment, which is Heihachi. It was just there to introduce, you know, Eddie Gordo into the story, and then after that, he's just there, you know. And even Lydia, she's there to, oh my god, dude, it makes no sense to me. During the end, they still do like connect all the characters together in some way, shape, or form, like Lita, however you pronounce her fucking name. She does have more of an important role during the end of the story. Like, I can see that at least. But, you know, it's still very odd how you decided to go this direction instead of giving them character episodes. Because you could have easily done that and not mention the fact that, you know, this took a lot of this takes money to make, and you're giving it to us for free, when you could have made the $8 that we spent on your character, by the way, more worthwhile and more, you know, content oriented. I don't know. It's just the DLC overall has just been very odd. I'm happy that they added Heihachi, and my next character that I want them to add is Elisa, or at least Roger Jr. It's never gonna happen. Roger Jr. is never gonna happen. It makes me sad. But Elisa has a good chance. She really does, honestly. That's just my take on the DLC. I think it could be done way better. You know, give the characters content instead of just being like, oh, we're adding more story and having that plan be with it. I don't know. I think it's just very odd. But, what's even weirder about all the DLC stuff is the microtransactions part. And now it's time to get into... So, the Fight Pass. That's a thing. So the Fight Pass, I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I can see what people have problems with. It's a very odd thing to add, because I'm pretty sure, if I remember what they said originally, they said that the reason why they're adding a Fight Pass to begin with was because they spent a lot of money on this game, so they need to figure out a way to get funds back. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can understand that. Like, I pay for it just so I can support them, quote, support them. Most of my money's going towards the greedy company known as Bandai Namco, but whatever. Overall, I think the Fight Pass isn't that bad, but it definitely does have some weird points to it. Like, the weirdest part about it is that there's just so much stuff that I just see on there that should have been in the game to begin with. I can completely understand, like, I can kind of understand adding stuff that wasn't added originally, but when there's something that I saw in the Fight Pass that was in a previous game, yet you didn't add it to this game, which shouldn't be so hard, why didn't you do that? Because that makes you come off as very shady. Most of the newer stuff that they add isn't that bad, because, you know, it's newer costumes. Of course, there are some costumes where it's like they were in the OG, like they were in the last game, yet not in this game. But I really don't have a problem with that, to be honest, because remember how much like detail people put into their character costumes, and yet you didn't really see a lot of people complaining. That's because the Tekken 8 the customizer is already fairly well equipped with a lot of things. So I don't really have a problem with it, and paying for a fight pass that gives me more of that isn't too bad, because I already like playing this game already. Getting a fight pass to where I can customize my characters even more and make some other wacky, goofy things isn't that bad in my opinion. There is that factor of like seeing things that should have already been in the game to begin with, especially since they were in the previous game, yet you for some reason didn't grab it and put it into the next game. That's very odd of you, but I'm not going to complain about it, because complaining about it is very odd. And of course there are the weird microtransactional parts where it's like buying a legacy costume from like an older title, which yeah, that is very odd. I don't understand why you do that. The other things I understand, where it's like, you know, buy a hula costume and all that stuff, or buying ninja costumes or cyber costumes, I can kind of understand that. I can see where you're going with that, because like I've done that before. I have some of the microtransaction stuff there, but overall, it's still weird when you're trying to sell legacy costumes when you don't even have that many legacy costumes in the game to begin with. So it makes you come off as very greedy. And no one likes it when their company comes off as greedy. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Overall, though, I think Tekken 8 is a very good game. It's a very great game, in fact. I think it has a lot of positives to it. But do I have hopes for the future? Yes, I do. I think overall, they are listening to the fans and what the fans want, adding stuff that the fans want and what they say they need, and they're trying to make their game better, and they want to make the game as good as they want it to. It's just certain things about it is just holding it back a lot, because, you know, paying $5 for a DLC stage is definitely very weird. But this isn't the first time we've seen this happen. They made you pay like a few dollars to get frame data in Tekken 7, so it's just like, this isn't the first time they've done something like this. But that's just the way some things just are. As of right now, I think the game's in a fairly healthy spot. Some characters could use nerfs and some changes. I really hope the DLC at least has some third-party characters. Overall, I think Tekken's about like I'd honestly say it's a 9 out of 10 game. For me at least, I'd say it's a 9 out of 10. It's not like a definitive thing, but I'd say the game's about a 9 out of 10 because it has content. The fighting's fairly good. The online's really well made, even with the new changes that they just added. And the DLC characters are really well designed, even if they don't have that much content to them. And, well, they just added content to those characters, so I guess that's content. And none of that was free, so you didn't have to pay for it, unlike a stage, I know. But Tekken 8's a good game, I'd say. And if you're wanting to play it, I would recommend you get it. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you won't. And yeah, that was it. Hope y'all have a nice evening. See ya.